Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters. And it's time for a review. And the review I'm about to do for you is for a action-packed revenge saga, I guess we could call it. It's from the mind of Dev Patel, who this is his directorial debut. It is a film that he, put together. I think it's a very much a passion project of his, because you can see the effort and the hard work he's put into it. It, of course, does have its flaws, but, you know, for the most part, this is a very enjoyable film. And I'm going to talk about none other than Monkey Man. Now, like I say, this is a revenge movie, and it's very gritty. It's very, tough. It has some uncomfortable moments in it. It has some very harsh, realities in this. And Dev Patel has put the work in terms of story, in terms of how he has put this together. And there's a little bit of history here with this film. Apparently, this film, when I read up a little bit about it, was filmed and created over nearly 3 years ago. And I think originally it was meant to potentially go to Netflix, but for whatever reason that did not happen, and it's been in limbo for a while. And then along comes Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele got a glimpse of this film, loved it, saw potential in it, and he helped Dev Patel bring it forward, and it's made the rounds at all the film festivals. It's done reasonably well. It's had a lot of buzz there. And then boom, it got a theatrical release thanks to Jordan Peele and obviously the hard work of Dev Patel. And I've got to give Dev Patel, a round of applause, because it's not easy to get a film off the ground. It's not easy to get a film, greenlit. You have to climb a mountain just to get a film greenlit before it's even hit production. That's the hard part, to get people to say yes and greenlight the film. So the fact he got this greenlit, he put it together, and he put the work in, I have to give him the round of applause. And it is, like I mentioned, it's a very tough, gritty revenge flick saga, as you will. And there are some good bits, and there are some negative bits. And there are things in this that I think could have been worked on better. But in all, it is a film I think everybody should at least give a go. I really do. So let's get into it. So, the story of Monkey Man goes: an anonymous young man unleashes a campaign of vengeance against the corrupt leaders who murdered his mother and continue to systematically victimize the poor and the powerless. And it was directed by Dev Patel. It's starring Dev Patel as well. It was written, or had some influences, by Dev Patel. It also was written by Paul Angowala and John Corley. And I'm terrible at butchering people's names. So the only two people's names I'm even going to attempt to mention that's in this is Dev Patel, of course, who was in Slumdog Millionaire, a film called Yesterday, and a number of others. Then it also has in the cast Charlito Copley, who was in District 9, and he's a very fine actor. But the premise of the movie is this: as you say, he's out for revenge, because the beginning of the movie, you start to see flashbacks of him and his mother in the woods or in the forest area of where they live, and she's telling him the mysteries in the mythology of a a mystical figure called Haruman. And it's his story and it's his tales, and he's taken it all in. And then suddenly it flashes forward to his present day, where he's living a very gritty and very tough life. And you can tell just by the sheer look at his face, he's been through a lot of trauma. And he's involved in underground street fighting. He wears the Monkey Man mask, which is obviously influenced by the stories of Haruman. And he faces off against another fighter who's known as Cobra. And obviously the actor that I mentioned from District 9, who is Shaw Lito Colby, he runs the underground fighting. And he's a very ruthless man, and he puts him through hell. But he uses the underground fighting as a way to deal with his rage and to control his rage, because he is a man on a mission. And the mission is that Dev Patel's character, Kid, wants to eventually find the people responsible for the murder of his mother. And it's somebody very high up who has become a very powerful political figure, who has a lot of power, a lot of influence. And you see a lot of the political elements play out in this film. You see news bulletins, you see news captures of events and riots and protests going on. Then you have the chief of police, who is very much a corrupt man, who's under the influence of this political figure. And you see the poor, and you see the homeless, and you see all the people that cannot defend themselves suffering at the hands of these individuals. And Dev Patel has a mission, and his mission is to climb as far as he can undercover into this world and get as close to these individuals and to eventually take them out. And he starts off working in the kitchens in a very exclusive brothel. You see a lot of things go on there, you see all the nasty influences there. And he also, like I say, he's using the underground fighting as his training ground to prepare for the eventual reality where he's going to strike. And eventually does make a play, and it goes, not his way. He then ends up, nearly being killed. And he finds this kind of sanctuary area where you get a lot of these transgender individuals that are in hiding, who are wanting a better life, who are being mishandled and being treated very poorly by this powerful individual. And it's at this point where Dev Patel's character Kid kind of loses his will and loses kind of his belief in himself, and starts kind of forgetting you know what he's trying to achieve, which at the beginning is pure revenge. But then these individuals remind him of the tales that his mother would tell him as a child, and tell him, they kind of remind him to believe in Haruman. And suddenly it's no longer about him anymore. It's about not just wanting revenge for the death of his mother. It's now also about cleaning up and getting rid of these individuals for the betterment of the people around him, for the citizens of the city that are under this horrendous you know control and manipulation, and dangers from these political individuals who have a lot of influence on what's happening around them. And so once he builds his strength up, he goes forward, and he decides now's time to strike. And this is when the action heats up. And that is your basic plot. And what I will say with Dev Patel, he's, like I say, a very ambitious director. He tried to put in a lot of political stuff in this, a lot of things that are generally happening in the real world. But then he also tried to give it this John Wick nitty gritty feel. with the dramatic plot, and wanting you to believe in him to go after the bad guys and wanting revenge. And then of course you have you know all those elements put together, as well as like these backstory elements. But where the film for me falls apart is there's too much. There's too much storytelling that he's trying to tell within the plot. So you've got the backstory, you've got the political elements, and then you've got the underground fighting elements. Then you've got the element of him trying to, work his way up so we can get close enough to these individuals. And it's like so many pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that he's trying to put together, but it all seems a little bit dislodged at times. And I found that a struggle. But where he succeeds is some of the action sequences are put together well, but there are other elements of the action sequences that aren't put together as well, because there is a bit of shaky cam action. So there'll be scenes where he's fighting on a staircase and the cameras follow him like that, and it's just jittering all around for each move he's doing. And then there's other elements where he was in the final fight sequence up in the giant I guess, ballroom, dinner room, where there's a group of individuals go after him, and it's clear as day. And you can see all the stabbings, all the blood. And that's another thing. Like I say, he is very much influenced with John Wick in terms of the action sequences, because there is some blood, there is some highly you know, choreographed fight sequences that really, when you watch them, you can see the influences in there from the likes of John Wick. But I think, like I say, I have nothing but respect for him because he's tried to be very ambitious with these story elements that he's putting together, like the background story of his mother is really well done. I really enjoy that. The actual, when you get the flashbacks of her actual death, and how she meets her demise, was quite unsettling. And you honestly you feel for the character of Kid, and that's one thing I will give this film. Apart from, like I say, the negatives of the being three like story points mixed up together, that he's trying to bring together to tell this one story. Where he succeeds is the emotional connection with him. He succeeds with the emotional connection with Kid, in terms of you see the trauma right at the beginning of the movie. You see little flashbacks here and there of the relationship with him and his mother, telling the stories of Haruman, and trying to influence him through that. And that's what's keeping him going, believing and still listening to these stories in his head of the tales of Haruman. That's like his inspiration to go after these people and go for the revenge. And all of that, and the emotional connection with him and his mother, and the mission ahead, that works very well. But it's all the other jigsaw pieces of a puzzle where I was lost, in terms of seeing the political elements, then seeing him, infiltrate the high class brothel, then seeing him training in the underground. It just seems like a lot of things just took up a lot of time, which could have been shortened. And he was very ambitious, but maybe too ambitious. And for a first time director, like I say, I'm giving him credit because he had a lot of great ideas, but I think it's how he's executed them. Could have executed them slightly better and put the jigsaw puzzle of this plot together slightly better. The action, when it's there, it is there, but like I say, there is elements that are not shaky cam action that are really good to watch. Then there's other elements, when the shaky cam element, it can be a bit off-putting. And there are some fight sequences that are quite dark, and when you have the shaky cam element, it can slightly be a little bit off-putting because you kind of have to blink and miss it moment. But story, I love the story of kid wanting to revenge his mother. The gore side of this is really well put together. There's some unsettling moments, especially the moment when you see the reveal of kid's mother's demise. I love how you're showing the culture of kind of, you know, Haruman and learning the mythology behind that. That was really interesting because it's always great to, look at a film and look at and understand and get to know new cultures and new worlds other than our own. And so this really was influential from obviously Dev Patel and where he comes from and the history of, all of, what if his beliefs in India and all that, and it really, really, really was well put together, those elements. But it's just a shame that there was too much going on and too many little sub parts of the plot that kind of took it away from enjoying this in the way I wanted to enjoy it. And I think the film is a little bit too long. I think the film could have been shortened, or if the had skipped certain elements and made it maybe, you know, just an hour and 10 minutes instead of maybe however long that movie is. I can't even remember how long the movie was, but there were certain parts that seemed to just drag on a bit. And every time we got to the action was so fast that you would get back to another part of the storytelling with the past or wanting to influence the brothel and find the villains, that it kind of took away from wanting to see the action. But when the action's there, like I say, it's there. It's just a shame it's done in the shaky cam elements instead of just being clear as day. And the fact that they're done in quite a dark setting doesn't help either. But Dev Patel, like I say, I'm not taking away from his ideas. I think he's very, very much put together a very, very interesting and clever film that has so many influences. John Wick, I keep going back to that, but it's very much for me heavy influenced by that. The culture elements that he's brought in, the political elements he brought in, true to today. How politics and corruption within politics and stuff like that, and how people of certain backgrounds are being discriminated against. It's all great, real stuff. And it's not what he's trying to do, but how he executes it. That is the point I'm trying to make. If he had executed it in a, maybe a different way and focused on maybe just not having certain things in the film and just focused on maybe you've got the underground fight elements, then you've got the political background element, then you've got the backstory and flashbacks with his mother, and then you've got him living his life today, trying to work his way up and deal with his trauma. There's so many, like I say, jigsaw pieces that are hard to follow, where he could have made it a lot more smoother to translate for the audience. But it's his first ever film. It's his first ever film he's ever directed. It's his first ever film that he's ever put together. And I do see a bright future for Dev Patel. I really do. Because, like I say, it is a film I think everyone needs to watch. It's a film that I believe deserves to have a watch. And it's a film that had a lot of potential and a lot of great ideas. The story, I understood it, I got it. I just wish there were certain elements that were fleshed out better. And I just think it could have been, a film that if they had shortened slightly more, if they'd shortened the film and just cut some time off it and just narrowed down some elements of the plot, I think it would have worked better. My favourite scenes was the chase scene in the little I forgot the name of it, but there's a car chase sequence. That for me was the best sequence in the film, the car chase sequence. That's really well executed. And he did show a lot of potential and it showed a lot of promise. I just think even though people will watch this, they will enjoy the action. It's the overall length and the different, the fact he's tried to cram so much into one film. But that's, he's tried to make an impact. He's tried to make an impression as a director. And I generally think he has done that. So for me, I'm going to rate this for the things I liked, which was the action, even though there is some shaky cam, the overall story, even though there's some bits I wish had been fleshed out more. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. And I do believe it deserves a 7 out of 10 because there is a great movie in this. I just wish there were certain bits that were, fleshed out better or had chopped out or, were explained better or shortened because there's, like I say, there's a lot of things in there that you've got to take in. But I love the history, learning about Haruman, the mythology of that character, that mythology, and I loved, the trauma side of Kid and what he went through and rooting for him to want revenge because you do get that emotional connection there. But everything else just seems to take over and take control of what we really should be and really should be focusing on, which is the trauma of him wanting revenge, going after it and using the Harrowman mythology to be his, anchor and his rocket. His rocket to want to go straight there and kick some ass, blow some heads off, chop some fingers off, kick, do it all. But there's so much else that gets in the way. But I still think it's a 7 out of 10 because it's a well choreographed film. The cinematography is fantastic in this. You can see the influences left, right, and center. And Dev Patel did do a great job. So 7 out of 10 for Monkey Man. So for me, I would give it a watch. Do check it out. It does have a lot of potential, but like I say, he was very ambitious, and I think he just tried to do too much and cram too much into one film, and it could have been fleshed out better. But yes, 7 out of 10. So, if you've seen Monkey Man, let me know what you thought of Monkey Man. If you haven't seen Monkey Man, do check it out. I promise you will probably enjoy it. You will, despite what I've said, I do think you will enjoy it. But like I keep always saying, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying your television, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and I'll catch us all at the next one.